Well then, we have 4 teams still finding it out across the Atlantic to find out the fate of the 2022 NBA Championship, and we have 2 guys dressed in all black here on this side of the Atlantic Ocean in Vilnius, Lithuania, ready to talk about all the things that we find interesting, that we find odd, or we find worth of our attention in any given way that feels plausible. Greetings and love to everyone everywhere, to all the weirdos and nerds in Scandinavia, to all the machos in Turkey and Serbia, to all the basketball fans all across the ancient continent. Rokas, Grajauskas, Mykolas, Jankaitis here on the 19th of May, enjoying ourselves in another episode of NBA Accent.
Thank you, Rokas, for amazing intro, and sorry for pronouncing your name in English. That's just how it works.
It's all right, Mykolas.
yeah, no problem, Mr. Grajauskas. And
we could do an entire episode of just doing this.
Yeah, I think it would be some used for some case study in like philology, second grade students.
Or like mental illness, behavior.
Definitely
a combination of both of these things, I would presume.
Yeah, sure, but we're here to talk about basketball, not practice. And Dallas Mavericks entered Eastern Conference Finals. I would say Western Conference Finals. Apologies. Really strongly. I like alongside with Boston Celtics that they were the hot team going into the Western Conference Finals, and despite Golden State Warriors having a home court advantage, I think like at least in my bubble. Most of the people thought that Dallas Mavericks have the upper hand because they just have the best player in the playoffs right now, and they have shooters around him that somehow defends really, really well. And the first game started, and 2 quarters passed by, and everything seemed normal. And then came the third quarter, and it was shades of something that Dallas Mavericks did themselves a couple days ago to Phoenix Suns. But Golden State Warriors just played much, much better third quarter, and that basically decided the game. And of course, we have to begin with Luka Doncic. I find it ridiculous that people like TMZ is the poison of the sports media. They I always receive notification that's a source of TMZ. I know that it will be some stupid leak or really sad news. And of course they posted the photo of Luka Doncic drinking 1 beer. And of course it was not during the game day. Everyone said that it was during the game day, but it wasn't. And I just want to brief my point about this certain topic, that I find it ridiculous that we are policing the athletes so much that, oh my God, he's drinking 1 beer before the game. How he can let himself doing that? Like, this is his body, and he owns it.
You sound like some feminist pro-abortion activist right now. It's his body. He does what he wants.
Well, I may be that, but I don't know. Don't you think that's just it's getting a bit out of hand? Because I don't know, the person that delivered one of the best performances in like certainly in these playoffs, but in some time, those records that only are met by one certain Michael Jordan, who also like did a lot of things during his off time.
Who was lucky to not live in this era of social media, of Twitter, of like Instagrams and TikToks and whatnot. I mean, his life would have been much more difficult if he lived, instead of living in or playing and reaching his peak in the 90s. If he would have done that like nowadays, it would be much, much different.
Yeah, and I just want to encourage Luka Doncic, drink as much beer as he can drink. If he continues to perform like that, I don't care. Of course, I just hope alongside that can improve his fitness. I couldn't, but Luka Doncic is a spectacular player, but he didn't play the spectacular game. Actually, he had the biggest, most negative plus minus of his team, minus 30, and it was really hard for him, basically because none of his teammates shoot the ball as well as they did against the in last couple of games against the Phoenix Suns.
And he himself, I mean, it was his worst performance of the playoffs this year.
Yeah, sure.
20 points, 7 turnovers. In the final 2 games against the Phoenix Suns, when they were trailing 2-3, and then in the all-deciding Game 7, he had 3 turnovers, like, in some of not in some of the games, but like if you add up all the turnovers, he had 3 in 2 games, and he had 7 against the Golden State Warriors in a game where he didn't even play that much compared to the 2 previous games against the Phoenix Suns. So what went wrong for the Mavericks, and how were the Warriors able to neutralize Luka at least in the first game so effectively?
Well, one could say, is Luka in trouble, you know? But basically, like, the main thing, in my opinion, was just Dallas Mavericks weren't making high-quality three-point shots. And this is how this series will go more often than not. That just team that, like, if Dallas will shoot their shots at higher than average percentage, those 3-pointers, it's basically impossible to stop them. But in this game, Golden State Warriors, beside having the luck of those 3-point attempts not going in, they had one amazing player that was a all-star starter this year, and we made a fun of that. And
yeah, I mean, he's got this for his entire career.
Yeah,
ain't nobody calling him Maple Jordan no more. He's now the all-star starter, Andrew Wiggins.
But if he's continuing to play and develop like that, the amount of defensive input he made, and the one Michael Bridges, he didn't defend Luka Doncic as well as Andrew Wiggins did. He's much stronger than Bridges. Yeah, he has like not such a long arms, but he goes through the screen for a person this big really, really well. So Luka is much harder to switch off Andrew Wiggins than some other player. And you can see that this team, despite of a lot of roster being completely different, but Kevin Looney, Draymond Green, Curry and Thompson, they know how to play against amazing ball handler and how to set up defense against one of the best passers in the game. Just the practice of playing against LeBron James, sorry, you could see that in the defensive rotations. Of course, Draymond Green, awesome as always. Golden State Warriors had 7 blocked shots. Mavericks had none. That just maybe they were fresher, you know. It seems that way, and they still are playing without Gary Payton II and Andre Iguodala. If those players can come back in some like good form, that would provide another problems to Dallas Mavericks. But basically, because they didn't make the shots as well as they should have, then it's much easier to help off of them. Just to double Luka in when you need to double him, and that's how the turnovers come from. You pass it, but the player is not as afraid to lose his matchup, and then he can go for the steal. And there were a couple of possessions that steal. So those, I think, were those key things that I've seen. But basically, I wouldn't say that, Luka Doncic doesn't know how to play against the Warriors. I think he will made some adjustments, and he will be back as amazing as he was before.
Yeah, and it's also physicality is a thing, is a term that's being thrown around a lot, and this really showed up in this game as well. Yeah, the Dallas Mavericks were coming off a Game 7, and it's not only the physical fatigue but also the mental fatigue that you just played the do-or-die game.
Sure.
And even Luka Doncic after the Game 7 said that I came into this game thinking that this is my final game of the season, and and he was basically just ready to leave it all out and go out of the playoffs with his held head high, knowing that he did everything that he could. And well, they apparently surpassed their own expectations, and quite solidly in Phoenix. And here, yeah, it's game one. You do not panic after losing game one with a scoreline like this. You shouldn't really. I mean, you're sort of just feeling the series at the beginning of the series. The first game, playing away, also playing after a game 7, I wouldn't sort of overreact to the loss of the Dallas Mavericks, because I mean, realistically, that was what we should have expected in game 1. Yes, of course, the 37 missed 3-pointers is a huge number, and yeah, I believe it is tied for second most in NBA playoff history, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I don't know the stat, but they may miss more in upcoming games. This is just the way Dallas Mavericks are playing, and they won't win any other way. And I think that's good. Like you have certain strengths that are impossible to guard when are they working, and you just bet on them working more than 50% of games. And even if they don't work, you may scrap some clutch win. I think there wasn't any clutch games in Mavericks Suns series, at least that I'm not remembering. Maybe at the beginning of, and I think like those two teams, there won't be a lot of close games too in this series, because Warriors are also like a really hot and cold team, and they have a lot of reserve in one stuff in Curry, and I actually a bit concerned how Steph Curry looks. Like he do so much things amazingly, but his shot is just off, and it's not coming back. Like I just expecting like in every series, well, maybe that MVP Curry on offense will come back. He doesn't. But one thing I just want to touch about this in this Eurocentric podcast about this not European player. It's really weird when you see how much better Stephen Curry is on defense than Chris Paul, for example, right now, because the perception is that Steph Curry bad and Chris Paul good, but since Chris Paul is a lot older than Steph Curry, maybe that can do something, has something with that. Steph Curry is really, really good on defense for the player his size, his rotations. Like he's really smart and much stronger than you would think. So he made Mavs offense much more difficult than, for example, Chris Paul in previous years. So I don't know. Do you have anything to add for this night's game?
I don't even know, man. As I said, I wouldn't sort of start to congratulate the Warriors too early. I believe that this should be a long series, and it is quite incredible to see the Dallas Mavericks here in the conference finals. Well, I mean, they hadn't won a playoff series since they became champions in 2011. And now after winning one, they already won 2, because why the hell not? If you got the monkey of your back, you might as well just add up on the result that you have achieved. It's quite funny that the last time that they faced, it was just the 3rd time that they faced the Phoenix Suns in the NBA playoffs in the history of the playoffs. The last time they faced them, it was 2006. They beat the Phoenix Suns, and they went on to the NBA Finals, where they lost against the Miami Heat, which theoretically is still possible to happen again 16 15 years after the last time it happened. But yeah, they do need to be hitting their shots. It's not some sort of an incredibly sharp observation, but yeah, you gotta, if you want to win, you gotta put the ball in the hole, and that's you cannot get around that whatever way you spin it. And yeah, they got out rebounded by 16. One of the reasons why was, of course, because they were missing a lot of shots. They are not really a offensive rebound crashing team in general, the way they play the game. So that's affected the numbers as well. But yeah, the Warriors were more physical, and especially in the third quarter.
Yeah, like 12 rebounds by Steph Curry shows that.
Yeah, that is insane. And it also reminds me of, I cannot say which year it was, but I remember one of the international basketball tournaments. Must have been the Olympics or a World Cup, but like 6 years ago, something like that. So maybe in Rio 2016, where the US team would play like, you would watch anybody facing the US. I believe it was the year, I will be able to find it. I don't know if it's really that important, but it's when Ukraine played in the World Cup, I believe. Okay. It was the first time that they did it as an independent country. And even they, after 2 quarters playing against the United States, they were like 5 points behind. And then third quarter would happen. And it was the same with the US playing against everybody. In that World Cup, it was... no, not 2023. What the hell are you showing me? Well, whatever. But just the sort of I don't know how much do teams plan for that, but everybody knows that you cannot, even though you would like to play like on the top of your physicality and on like really like a pressing game, if you will, to borrow a term from football. All 48 minutes is just physically impossible, and just the game itself is not sort of open for that type of intensity for all 48 minutes. But teams really sort of hack up the intensity and just put up the pressure for a few minutes in some like periods of the game. Okay. And the third quarter was, back in that tournament, was where the US won every third quarter by like 20 points or even more, and would always just in every game just bust the game wide open right after halftime, where they would just crush opponents. And this time, I mean, the third quarter was also the breaking point, and I wonder if it's just naturally some sort of a phase of the game where the more physical team gets some sort of an advantage. Maybe it's easier to sort of to put your own I don't know, foot on the gas or foot on the throat of the opponent, or however you want to call it. But just the third quarter is just such an interesting part of the game, where once again, I mean, the more physical team usually gets their own in the third quarter, and that's what happened in the first game of the Western Conference Finals.
That's what happened in the certain game of Eastern Conference semifinals, and meanwhile, Luka Doncic is certain. Maybe some could argue that he's not the best player that remains in the playoffs. I think he is, but he certainly is the best European player that remained in the playoffs. And the other person that conquered with him for both of these titles unfortunately fell out of the playoffs. I'm talking about Giannis and his Milwaukee Bucks. Short-handed Milwaukee
Bucks. Could have
Bucks.
been a joke in there. There was just a tiny window for a joke right there, but never mind.
I'm just happy that I managed to finish sentences. Don't matter jokes. And basically, Giannis had, I would say, all in all, good playoffs. Like personally, individually. I don't buy those saying that Giannis' stock is like falling or something like that. I think he definitely established himself as like best player in the NBA. His offensive input, how he managed to just drag this offenseless in other ways Bucks team to 7 games against this talented Boston Celtics that was exhausted, by the way. In the if Dallas Mavericks were tired, Celtics were exhausted in game 1 against Miami Heat. And how he managed his free throw routine, how he changed that, and how he's not liability on that. And of course, his defensive inputs, I think it was really, really solid work. And if I would be a Bucks fan, I would be encouraged for next season, because it's when you have players this good, it's really easy to just change a few things and just get players that will make those open 3-pointers. Made 3-pointers in Game 7. That was incredible. And they still hang on for 2 quarters. They looked the better team, actually, in the first 2 quarters of Game 7. And that, janky defensive style, how they just left open Grant Williams, and then he just started pouring all those 3-point shots in second half. But of course, I wanted Bucks to go through. I wanted Giannis to play against Luka in the finals, or maybe against Warriors. Either way, it would have been really, really interesting. But it is how it is. Later in this episode, we will go through some players that maybe could strengthen Milwaukee Bucks squad. But just what do you think Bucks would need to change in the off season?
Yeah, the Bucks need to get Chris Middleton healthy.
That's enough?
I believe that would have been enough. That would have been enough in this series. And if it would have been enough in this series, probably it would have been enough in the Eastern Conference Finals. And, you cannot predict what would have happened if something would have happened. But yeah, they were a damn good team. They took Boston to 7 without Middleton, without your all-star, without, Drew Holiday became the second offensive option, where
Brook Lopez was the second offensive option.
Yeah, and I mean his game is not just designed to be that. We saw him the best possible version of Drew Holiday in the ending of Game 5, which was just incredible what he did defensively. And he is not a guy who prefers to be shooting 20 in excess of 20 field goal attempts in a game. That's not his game at this stage of his career. So the Bucks really, really, really needed Chris Middleton. And you can talk about losing PJ Tucker really hurt. They didn't really replace him with somebody of that caliber defensively, and that experience, and that sort of poise and composure that he brings to the team just as a locker room presence. But it is impossible to replace PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker is one of a kind.
Well, they didn't have to lose him.
Well, that's another point. But talking about PG Tuckers do not grow on trees. And you cannot just take somebody DeAndre Bembry, you'll be our new PJ Tucker. No, you won't, because PJ Tucker is PJ Tucker. And yes, I mean, talking about how can they strengthen their roster, get Chris Middleton back healthy. I mean, even though you can look at this as a disappointing ending to the season, you didn't defend the title, but considering the circumstances, considering the injury, that's not really unexpected, and that's just, I don't even know, a correct comparison does not pop up in my head just randomly like that. But that was the main reason why they are not playing in the Eastern Conference Finals, and trying to somehow make some, big adjustments to the roster, or trading somebody for somebody. I don't know if I would do that if I was John Horst, and is it John Horst? I believe it is John Horst, and the Milwaukee Bucks entire just staff.
Yeah, I think that Lopez, Giannis, of course, Middleton and Drew, 3 of those players are, of course, not untouchable, but they shouldn't trade them probably, unless I don't know, some offer similar to Kawhi Leonard from Spurs happens, then of course you trade everyone besides Giannis. But I don't think that Grayson Allen is should play playoff minutes on the good team. He's just liable on offense, on defense. Sorry, he's really hustly type of person, but
sneaky athleticism.
The one that's has a pointless hustle that brings the injuries to other players, fouls and mistakes to your own end. Like a bit similar to Russell Westbrook kind of defensive aggression, or Rajon Rondo late career defensive aggression, but just with even more danger to opposition players. And maybe packaging with him with Bobby Portis to bring someone that's, if not like that person that's if not having a good offensive night, could have at least good output on defensive end. Because when Grayson Allen and Bobby Portis are not giving you anything on offense, and on in this series there were more often this scenario than the other one, then they are just liability on the defensive end, and they are just. I think if there's a chance, they should look for the ways to replace them.
But Bobby Portis is basically their main backup center. You could call Giannis that, but they are playing like in the front court together when, for example, when Brook Lopez was injured for a huge part of the year.
Yeah, but you can have another one.
Another Bobby Portis?
Like another backup center.
Well, they do have Serge Ibaka, but it doesn't look that that he will be able to, get back to the level that he was playing at with Toronto or with OKC for that matter.
Yeah, he was like important player for them. And Grayson Allen also was important player for them, but they were both liabilities on the defensive end that were exploited, and they were also liabilities more often than not on the offensive end. Not maybe Bobby Portis so much, but Grayson Allen especially. So just...
Yeah, I mean, Grayson Allen, I don't believe that anybody in Milwaukee would get really angry at you for suggesting that maybe the team should package Grayson Allen with someone and try to get something else. But, Bobby Portis... And it's also not that, they love Bobby Portis in Milwaukee. They do, I believe, but it's not really that easy to find someone.
I'm not saying that like anyone would be better than Bobby Portis, and you just do what LA did and package all players to get like some John Wall or something like that. No. If like you just look for reasonable upgrades really, really strongly, and just not think that we will have Chris Middleton back and we're good. I think there's work to be done with this squad in the offseason.
Well, Serge Ibaka will become a free agent. Yeah, Bobby Portis has a player option for $4.5 million. So
which he will decline that one, and probably will sign a larger extension, which will make him untradeable, I guess.
Grayson Allen has an extension kicking in, $9.6 million next season, 10.4, 9.6 next season, 10.4 for 23-24.
That's too much. I thought it was 9 million for 2 years.
No, that's basically 20 million for 2 years.
And that's guaranteed the second year?
Yeah, it doesn't say that it isn't on Basketball Reference. Yeah, I believe it is 20 million for 2 years.
Oh my God. And they how did I miss that? So they basically evaded PJ Tucker, like one certain good season of PJ Tucker for Grayson Allen. Oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm really disappointed right now.
Oh, I just love checking out. Those waived player dead money things that the clubs are still playing. They're still paying John Leuer. 3.2 million. Now that's a name I hadn't seen in a while. And of course, his story was unique, but 1.9 million this season.
Larry Sanders.
Yes, they still were paying to Larry Sanders to not play basketball, sit home and do crappy hip-hop music. So what a life for Larry Sanders.
We both agree that the way Bucks went out were respectable, and
absolutely.
We probably wouldn't say that about other team that we will be talking about.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you watched that game live?
Which one? Game 7?
Yeah, Game 7.
No, I was unable to because I had health problems.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I forgot that. I turned it on because I was disappointed how the Game 7 of Eastern Conference weren't close enough, and I had to turn it off early so I could get normal amount of sleep, because I saw that it's pointless, like no way Bucks are winning it like in the middle of the third quarter, and then woke up early, before work, and just wanted to watch an amazing, nail-biting Game 7 between two of the best clutch teams in the basketball. Well, it was definitely interesting first 2 minutes of the game. I don't know. Actually, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that game so much, just seeing how the team collapses, how the fans doesn't understand what's happening, how the players cannot you can see comprehension and all the 5 phases of grief happening during the 2 minutes of the fast breaks that Dallas Mavericks just pouring those triples and locking them up completely in defense. Well, it was one of the most shocking performances, most surprising performances that I've ever seen live on television. It was
a 30-point lead at the half.
Yeah,
was the biggest ever recorded in Game 7 history.
That's
ain't no Game 7 up until now was this lopsided. And we're talking about the away team smacking the home team just left and right like a piñata in the middle of Arizona.
Yeah, Nets got swept by Celtics. But I think this was more embarrassing than that.
Actually, yeah, I would agree.
Because all of those games were closed. It's just bad, they don't have enough of grit and not enough of grind, And this was just that they don't have anything. Wow, how they won 64 games, It's
68, I believe, or was it? No, 64, I'm sorry.
It was incredible. And of course, I'm oversaturating right now. Phoenix Suns are well-managed team with amazing players, but just Dallas Mavericks and Luka Doncic had all the answers. And it's not the first time they get beaten by a European player. Last year, Giannis were terrorizing them, adding 50 in Game 6, I believe it was, or Game 5. Of finals.
The 50 nugget, I just remember him ordering the nuggets.
Yeah, see how it's easy to forget everything. But Phoenix Suns and all that... retrospective of Luka Doncic being the player that Suns passed.
He's being just there on the plate for you, and you having his national team head coach in Igor Kokoshkov.
Appointed before the draft.
Yes.
It was so obvious, and then, I don't care about that boy from Europe. If I'm Phoenix Suns, I'm picking DeAndre Ayton at first, said Stephen A. Smith. And of course, you have to do everything the way Stephen A. Smith says.
Yeah, man, that's Stephen A. Smith's world. We just live in it.
Yes, yeah. And of course, there's interesting rumors about DeAndre Ayton himself.
I thought you were going to say Stephen A. Smith.
Yes.
What kind of interesting rumors?
So I know that you had some kind of question prepared. So I think it's time.
A question. Yes. But thank you for reminding me. Before I get into the question, DeAndre Ayton is about to become a restricted free agent. He's free to sign an offer sheet with any of the NBA teams. We have only 5 teams, I believe, with cap space this summer, them being the Indiana Pacers, the Detroit Pistons, the Oklahoma Thunder, the New York Knicks, I believe, and
I don't have sheet in front of me.
But so there are some possible suitors for DeAndre Ayton. I saw Bill Simmons sort of predicting and saying that, next season, they will start next season without DeAndre Ayton on the roster. It will be a sign and trade, or it will be something that Robert Sarver, the owner, will not agree to go that deep into luxury tax for a position that is allegedly worth less than other positions, especially when you have Chris Paul. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, at the end of the game of NBA season, if you want to be there will be a certain point. You have to become extremely lucky for your like 200 mil contract player, like which he eventually will become probably. Well, not with this extension, but with the next one. That player will be exploited, and unless he's Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid, they won't be able to compensate enough on the offensive end. It's just the way it is. You see it over and over again in with a lot of different players.
Rudy Gobert?
Yeah. Like I really like Rudy Gobert as a player. I think he's amazing, but it just impossible to grab your senses around it when the player receives over $200 million, like has a contract over $200 million, and he may be cannot play against certain teams in the playoffs. And I don't think he was the issue against Dallas Mavericks. I said that before, that was issue of other defenders and the way Utah Jazz defended. But like if you would play against this Golden State Warriors, you would be exploited. If you would play against this Dallas
against these Warriors, not so much. They do play Kevon Looney a reasonable amount of minutes.
Yeah, but Kevon Looney enters a lot of screens, and most of them you need to switch if you're guarding against Jordan Poole and etc.
Rudy Gobert can switch. He's not an unswitchable center. The problem that the other team creates is when they go 5 out, when you just simply take him out of the paint. That is the way to sort of neutralize the rim protectors of the other teams. Rudy Gobert is fairly reasonable when he switches on guards, and he's not. He is being targeted on pick and rolls, but it's not that that if you get him switched, that's like insta death for the Utah
really
Jazz.
Few players that can exploit Rudy Gobert on the switch, and I would think that maybe I made a wrong impression. I don't even think that he's overpaid so much, but is he right fit for Jazz like project? That's the whole other topic. But DeAndre Ayton is no Rudy Gobert on the defensive end, and if there are some players in the NBA that can exploit Rudy Gobert on the switch, there are much more players that can exploit DeAndre Ayton, and it would be arduous job. I wouldn't want to negotiate for the contract from Phoenix Suns perspective, because if you lose him, you cannot get something back for him unless it's sign and trade. And I don't think that's unlikely that he will just pick up qualifying option and will become unrestricted next year.
Could be. That's also possible. In the Game 7, the Dallas Mavericks torched the Phoenix Suns, but also the Suns really just found themselves in quicksand on offense. They couldn't generate anything. There was a trade that was discussed between the two franchises at the time, approaching the trade deadline. We don't know all the details, like what other moving pieces would have been had to have been added on each side and all of that. But yes, I see your smile. I see you nodding your head.
No, I'm nodding my head because I really liked the way you finished the sentence. It was smooth.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
And I have no idea which trade you're talking about.
The trade was the Phoenix Suns really went into negotiations with the Indiana Pacers for a trade package that would have centered on DeAndre Ayton moving to Indiana and Domantas Sabonis ending up in Phoenix, which would have, affected the team defense, possibly had some other implications, obviously. But at a Game 7 like this, and at the end of the series, when their guards were unable just to be found, Chris Paul was just gone. Devin Booker scored his first points in Game 7 in like the middle of third quarter, when the game was basically over already.
In first 2 quarters, Chris Paul and Devin Booker made 1 field goal. Two of the best players of the team, so it was.
So I mean, What if this is a theoretical, of course, point of discussion or a theoretical talking point? But what if? How do you see it? What if have changed the entire complexion of the series, or at least the game set. Maybe they wouldn't have even made the Western Conference semifinals. I don't know. How do you see that?
I think they would have made the semifinals, but I think DeAndre Ayton is better playoff player than Domantas Sabonis is. But yes, I know on the game 7, of course, like Domas would, anyone that like Joe Johnson, 40-year-old Joe Johnson probably would have been useful for that.
Just a tiny, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Joe Johnson played in this season, had a 10-day contract with the Boston Celtics.
Yes.
If the Boston Celtics win an NBA championship, they have every right to give an NBA champion ring to Joe Johnson for playing for the team this season.
JV
Imagine
will
that.
be fuming if Joe will receive a ring. But
maybe not. Not all of our viewers or listeners know the story.
Yeah, but sorry, finish.
Yeah, so the Toronto Raptors traded Jonas Valanciunas mid-season for Marc Gasol to Memphis Grizzlies, and after they won the champion ring, they sort of had a choice to make. Do they want to give Jonas Valanciunas a ring or not? Because he played for the team that season, and if I'm not mistaken, they decided that we're not giving him a ring. So Jonas Valanciunas is without a ring, and that's why you said that if Joe Johnson would get a ring, JV should be pissed. But yeah, Joe Johnson actually played. He was drafted by the Boston Celtics, and when he played this season for Boston, he played after 19 years and 300 something days. Like the gap between his last game and this game. I believe that it is. Yes, it's like the biggest gap of someone playing, like 2 games with such a long piece
and he played
of time
for the Suns too.
In between.
He was the player that, I don't know if the Sarver was the owner of Suns back then, but that owner in that time just
I believe he was
rejected. It was quite kind of similar situation to DeAndre Ayton. It was a strong up and coming team, and they had a lot of good players, and they had a young star in Joe Johnson, and it was time was about to do for Joe Johnson to receive a good contract, and owner just refused to pay him that because it would have meant a luxury tax.
Yeah, it's the James Harden, Oklahoma, or
and that team would have been stacked, like with Joe Johnson and other supporting, like not supporting cast to them, but just other players.
The 7 seconds or less with JoJo.
Yeah, it would. Oh my God, it would have been incredible, but it wasn't, and. Like Phoenix had some rough luck with some players and a lot of Europeans too.
With European players especially. I mean, not drafting Luka Doncic is probably the dumbest thing.
Then getting blasted by him, then getting blasted by Giannis a year ago. Just
yeah, but even all of the European players that have played for the Phoenix Suns, I mean, we could do a really deep dive. I actually went out and tried to find all of them. I count 24 right now. But
let's do the deep dive because nobody else will do that in the world.
I believe so. Yeah. Nobody else would discuss every European player of the Phoenix Suns franchise in history. You ready?
I am.
Well, we can start with 1985. In 1985, the Phoenix Suns actually became the first NBA franchise to sign up a player from behind the Iron Curtain. Bulgarian dude named Georgi Gluchkov became the first Eastern European to play in the NBA, and he joined the Phoenix Suns in 1985. It was a very, very interesting marriage that didn't last that long. There were plenty of stories about him. Apparently, when he came to the US, he experienced a huge culture shock. He was
no shit.
Like in 1985 from the Soviet Union. He really fell in love with American food, especially American candies.
Okay.
That was one of the reasons why, allegedly, he really grew just exponentially in body fat and wasn't able to really hang on to a place in Phoenix, and there were also some. There was some scuttlebutt about possible steroid use, but this is just an urban legend. Nobody can test that now.
The man got big.
Yeah, the man got real big. And Alvin Adams is one of the icons of the Phoenix Suns. He was a center. He played there for his entire career, which was 13 seasons or maybe 15 seasons. He recalled Georgi Gluchkov coming to Phoenix. And, he said that I had heard that he came from Europe. I speak a little bit of German. And so on one of the first practices, I said, sprechen Sie Deutsch? And he nodded his head. And so I used to like to try to explain him some stuff in German, and then maybe 3 months later, in some like tourist information like brochure, I read that in Bulgaria, this actually means no.
Oh,
and
yes.
This means yes. Yeah, this is a classic that we all as kids just got our minds blown when we read about that. But Alvin Adams didn't know that. So he actually tried speaking German, and he just thought, well, the guy is really silent. What can I say?
Yeah,
but,
I remember knowing that fact, of course, and like being in a camp with some Bulgarian teenagers when I was one. And
when you were a Bulgarian teenager?
Yeah, I tried to be. And that they use this for yes, but when you're talking with them and they just doing that, you're just getting anxious and panic attacks. Oh fuck, what wrong I'm saying? I know that it's all right. Oh, they are agreeing with me, and then you said something.
This is so insane. This is one of the most because this is so universal.
But I think Indians also does that.
Indians, I don't mean to make no jokes that would offend any people, but I believe that they just move their head when they talk, and it's not necessarily connected to agreeing with you or disagreeing with you.
Okay, I will Google it.
Yeah, man, because it's really
quickly.
important. One of the most important things that we have to discuss. Anyway, Georgi Gluchkov didn't really work out, was sort of, attracted some attention, but I see your smile and I believe that you found something.
We are Eurocentric podcast. Do you want to guess which other European countries also has this kind of thing?
The inverse
nodding reversion. There's actually at least according to Wikipedia, to indicate refusal by nodding is only one country that are not in the Europe, and 4 countries, including Bulgaria, that are in Europe.
4 countries?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
One like
Wikipedia.
Those 3 countries,
Moldova.
they are really connected. Like one country connects all the other 2 countries a lot.
Serbia?
No,
but that's
no.
bullshit.
Think like about 2 countries that has a really close relationship with, like, not close, like there's. Okay, I can just. Do you want to guess more, or should I just?
I don't.
It's
I don't
Greece,
believe it.
Cyprus, and Turkey.
Okay.
According to I don't believe that. I cannot believe that. I don't know that Greece has this for, and also Iran. So
cool.
To the other player.
To the other player, we jump 10 years into the future from the depths of the mid 80s, and we are coming to mid 90s when the MVP of the Italian Basketball League, a name that I have really heard before, cannot say a lot about him, but
okay.
I have heard the name before, Stefano Rusconi, signed with the Phoenix Suns. He was a center, the MVP of the Italian League, played for Benetton Treviso before we went to Phoenix and after, because there he spent only a season, appeared in 7 games, averaged 1.1 points per game. Another unsuccessful European import. 1997 to 1999, 2 seasons that the Olimpia Ljubljana legend Marko Milic spent in Phoenix. really didn't, move mountains in his NBA career. From 2000 to 2003, Jake or Yakovos Tsakalidis, a man from Rustavi in Sakartvelo. I have some friends from Rustavi who have told me, what can I say? The very best people from Sakartvelo come from Rustavi, but the very worst people from Sakartvelo also come from Rustavi. So, Yakovos Tsakalidis on the basketball court was not one of the best Georgian exports. He played for 3 seasons in Phoenix. He appeared in 157 games. He started 113, yet his most productive season was his sophomore season, 7.3 points and 5.6 rebounds per game. As it later turned out, those numbers were the best of his NBA career, and he didn't really stuck in the league for long.
But he played until he was 27, so
yeah, but
it's not for long, but it's longer than any previous Phoenix Suns Europeans before him.
Fair enough, and much more than quite a few of the upcoming ones.
Yeah.
To 2003-2004, in 4 games, the first player from Poland to play in the NBA, Cezar Trybanski, played for the Phoenix Suns. The very
first time
Really?
Yeah.
He even played in Lithuania for Dzūkija Alytus like some 7 or 8 years ago, like towards the end of his career for 1 season.
I was expecting other name actually when you said
there
Poland.
will be the very same season. Yeah, they signed Maciej Lampe, which was also a Polish NBA player. In the legendary 2003 NBA draft, they held the 17th pick, and they used it to pick up Žarko Čabarkapa, who was actually having a decent season, was sort of getting his footing in the NBA, but he got pushed on a dunk attempt by Danny Fortson. He broke his wrist, and he just lost all momentum and never sort of revealed his full potential in the NBA.
He's the OG Andrew Bogut.
Some sort of, yeah, but
I'm talking about the
injury. I do understand that. We had an Irish dude named Pat Burke playing there for 2 seasons.
This is definitely the name I haven't heard before.
This is me neither, man. I don't even have anything
which
about.
Which country didn't have which European player didn't have any players playing in the NBA? Like Ireland would be.
I knew they had
5 on my list probably.
They had some. Jay Larranaga, I believe, played a little bit. He's now an assistant for the Boston Celtics. Mykolas Tsikitishvili, another Georgian import, 2005-06. His best game came with 9 points and 5 rebounds. Boris Diaw, of course, one of the best Phoenix Suns imports, and European players, won the most improved player while playing for Phoenix, the most improved player award, one of 2 Europeans to do that. We also had, there are not that many left.
Sorry, just stop by Boris Diaw. I believe that version of Boris Diaw that played it in Phoenix, in this day and age, he would get 20 to 25 million per year easily. He was so versatile, so athletic. He could guard the guards, and he would be able to guard a lot of bigs in this modern era. He would be amazing, like as a small ball 5, but he could also play as a number 3. And of course, don't forget those point guard skills.
I mean, offensively, he could fulfill the Draymond Green role. And also he could shoot. He was not like a dead-eye shooter, but he could shoot. And I mean, his playmaking skills, his ball handling skills, the man was really ahead of his time. And Boris Diaw, actually, if I had to pick my, top 5 favorite French basketball players of all time, Boris Diaw would be on the list. Definitely. Cannot say one bad word about the guy.
When he played for Atlanta, he was shooting guard, and then for 2 seasons, and then later in his career, he was listed as power forward. But we know that he played as a lot of center or small forward too. So, Monsieur versatility.
That's a good one. I love it.
So let's go to the next
versatility.
one.
There was another French dude who played for the Phoenix Suns, but he didn't really leave such a long-lasting legacy, and that's Michael Pietrus. He only spent the season there.
He's my favorite French player. Just I I really
just because
liked
on NBA Live you could.
Yes,
yeah,
sure,
yeah,
sure,
he had,
sure.
He
He
had
was-
the power up dunking shoe thingy.
Yeah, he was really athletic, and his shooting motion in later, I don't know if it was live or 2Ks, but I think it was 2Ks. In later years of his career was really, really smooth, and it was easy to make a lot of shots with him.
All right, there's a story that I found. Like, now this is a legacy that's really a lasting one. The one European player left in Phoenix, 2007-08 is the season.
Yeah.
Shaq is in Phoenix.
Yeah.
I mean, Shaq was just out of his fucking mind that year. Have you heard about like the big cactus and all those stories that he would be chasing like some medical staff around the arena on practice days naked, yelling something about his big cactus, and like all of crazy just stories. He would used to have the rookies carry him into like in the starting five introductions when he weighed like 150 kilograms.
If we're talking about Jordan being lucky not having to play in social media at times, so like Shaq is both lucky and unlucky at the same time, because if he would play in the social media times, he would be probably up to the best player of all time conversation, just how much he would get hyped. Like he would be basically Zion on steroids. I'm talking about hype. Performances, of course, much better, but these kind of things, well.
Before one game against Dallas, it was an important home game in Phoenix. There was a perimeter player from Europe he was not a good passer. If he would get the ball by the 3-point line and Shaq would be posting up asking for a ball, he was just not a very good passer. He would usually just shoot because that was his role in the NBA. So Grant Hill was actually playing that season as well in Phoenix, and he was telling the story so before the game we are all like in the dressing room, and I just go out to the toilet. And I come back and I see the European player laying down on the floor, out conscious. Because apparently Shaq put him in a sleeper hold and just choked him out until he just went out conscious before a game. Do you want to guess who the player was?
Well, I looked up. It's Gordon Giricek.
Yes, it was Gordon Giricek, who was actually choked out by Shaq, and that's his long-lasting legacy in Phoenix.
Wow.
Hido Turkoglu played for 25 games in Phoenix, but didn't even finish a single season there. In 2013-14, Marcin Gortat said that we have the Eastern Bloc here in Phoenix, because it was Marcin Gortat, Alex Len, and Vyacheslav Kravtsov. And a very high draft pick, the 5th draft pick spent on Alex Len. We, of course, had Goran Dragic, who was a huge success story with Phoenix.
One of few.
And also won the most improved player. We had Zoran Dragic playing there as well. The only thing of note that he did or was part of was the first time that an NBA team put out, like in the 5 players, to have 2 sets of brothers playing together. It was the Morris twins and the Dragic brothers. And I tried looking it up and I couldn't even find who the hell was the 5th guy. Because that was a question that left me really intrigued. But to cut a really long story just a little bit shorter, we also had Mirza Teletovic, 2015-16, one of the best 6th players of the season that year. He was really good in Phoenix.
I completely forgot that I liked him in NBA, but I just remember him with other teams. Of course, I was.
He only spent a single season there, but it was one of his best, perhaps his best season in the NBA.
Yeah, 12 points per game, 39% 3-point shooting, 5.8 attempts. Man, he would lit up. Like this version of Mirza would be amazing in regular season.
He set a record back then of making the most 3-pointers off the bench in a season. I believe that it's bested by now because of the way the game has evolved, it was a record back then. So we also had Dragan Bender, Elio Kobo, Ricky Rubio played there for a year, and we have Dario Šarić and Ife Lundberg still playing for the Phoenix Suns.
Well, I thought it will be a list of really disappointing players, but actually 2 players that won 6 MAP while playing of that team.
Yep.
It's kind of good output, but just Dragan Bender and Alexei Len,
that was
2 players like top 5 picks. That's
I was wondering, this is not really connected with the Phoenix Suns, but from 2014 to 2016, what the hell was going on? I believe that the Croatian players had like really, really good agents coming into the draft. 2014, pick number 12, Dario Šarić. 2015, pick number 5, Mario Hezonja. 2016, pick number 4, Dragan Bender. Like, if we take these 3 players out of the equation, the highest ever Croatian player with the highest pick was selected in 2003 when Zoran Planinic went number 22. Like, they never had any really high draft picks except for this 3-year period with 3 lottery selections.
Croatia will become the next powerhouse of
They did
Europe
well in
basketball.
Rio in 2016. I believe they finished 5th in the Olympics, but afterwards they didn't really do anything. They qualified for this year's Euro Championship
too. Like they weren't.
Dragan Bender will go down in history as one of the most badass names ever in the NBA. I mean, to be a Dragan Bender, that's something else.
That's
but
some like Lewis Alcindor could have become Dragan Bender.
That's like if somebody chose to become a Dragan Bender,
but he's not badass at all.
Yeah, so one other thing that really surprised me, just considering it's already done. We have spoken about every Phoenix Suns European player ever. Like, we didn't have, as Lithuanians, we didn't have a single player playing for the Phoenix Suns. But a fun fact, that throughout the history, there have been 3 players born in Poland and playing in the NBA. All 3 of them went through the Phoenix Suns. With Cezar Trebanski, with Maciej Lampe, with Marcin Gortat. So, like, it's our neighbors, and they see Phoenix like completely different than we do. We can relate with like Toronto Raptors because we've all followed the way Jonas Valanciunas played, or the Portland Trailblazers because of Arvydas Sabonis, or, you know, the other franchises. But Phoenix Suns is so sort of, you know, common for our neighbors, and so absolutely unexplored for us as basketball fans to be watching the team and rooting for it as our team.
Yeah, most definitely not. But maybe it will change, probably not in this year, because only 1 European player are projected to go in the top in the first round, and
Which is crazy, by the way.
And he's not Lithuanian,
which is even crazier.
I think it may change. I noticed a trend that like young European player stocks are rising when the drills start. You know what I'm talking
draft
about.
Combine.
Yeah, when the draft combine start. But we will have time to talk about
Which is also weird because not a lot of European players go there.
Well,
as far as I'm concerned,
the ones that are expecting to be drafted go, and still it's still hard for NBA teams to properly evaluate Europeans playing professionally. Well, when you have Luka Doncic, it's obvious because like the person dominates grown men, you know. But when you have
and yet still they don't even. It seems.
Well, Suns and Kings were dumb. Yeah.
It seems as if they wouldn't tell the difference between like the level of EuroLeague or the level of like the Australian basketball league.
I just got a thought that maybe it wasn't about quality of basketball at all, but we know that Vlade Divac had a feud with father of Luka Doncic, and I think, you know, when like sometimes you are so afraid to be to be judged for nepotism, so you just do like reverse and just exclude the option of if your family member being hired, you know, just for you to be safe of not questioning that. Maybe that what Suns did with, they wanted Kokoshkov to be their head coach, and they just thought, well, if we go and draft Doncic, everyone will say that it's only because we have Kokochkov.
But
yeah, like I'm not saying they made the right choice, but maybe that was the thought process. Of course, they thought that, well, Ayton may also be really, really good. Well, he's not bad, but he's not projecting to be all-time great.
He might be on another team when another season starts. So
how the
and
timetables.
discussing, that Vlade Divac had feud with Sasha Doncic. Vlade Divac was good friends with Ivica Dukan. Do you remember in 2015-16 there was a dude named Duže Dukan who had
I
a
most
deal with
certainly
Sacramento
remember
Kings.
that we had a sporkle with him in it. But
Yeah, might have been, yeah, because I remember that it was basically discussed even then. And well, he got signed as an undrafted free agent because his father is a really good friend with Vlade Divac.
like he played one game, played 24 minutes, and I would guess that game was played in
in
Tankathon.
the silly season, yeah, Tankathon.
Yeah, so it was played in last season of the game, in the must-lose game of 2016. It was played against Houston Rockets, and they
They lose?
of course, they lose
Yes.
by how much points? Sorry,
It's not important, man.
well, if we went that far, it was 116 to Houston Rockets, 81 points to Sacramento Kings. Costa Koufos played there, Seth Curry played there. Duže Dukan was the seventh player that played 7 most minutes in Kings rotation. Quincy Ace was the 6th man of that game, and James Harden scored 38 points. How the time flies by. So
yes.
with Duže Dukan, Sacramento Kings, and Donatas Matejūnas also played 14 minutes in that game, and maybe got injured or no, I don't know, but because he started, we finished this podcast. We had some other topics that we were planning to talk about, but they are evergreen.
Don't tell them that.
I won't tell them that. The topics that we wanted to talk about, and it was really nice chatting with you. We now switching to Lithuanian, maybe switching our sweaters and going to talk about basketball for 2 hours more or something like that.
Yeah, so thanks for tuning in. Thank you for your attention, and till next time. This is NBA Accent.